Hello, everybody out there. Today's another installment of Greater Than Careers. Today I have Mr. Justin Bernal. Justin, you want to say hi and kind of give everybody an overview of what you do and what you're about?
Sure. My name is Justin Bernal. First and foremost, I'm a prior service Marine Corps veteran, served from 2010 to 2014. When I got out in 2014, I got my EMT basic certification here in Texas. And the following year, 2015, I got my TCFP firefighter certification. And I've been a firefighter EMT ever since. I'm currently with the City of Live Oak, Texas Municipal Fire Department. I've worked for 2 county departments and an industrial fire department. So I have a pretty decent insight on basic departments here in South Texas region.
Okay, awesome. So you've been doing it for about 6 years as a firefighter then?
6 years as a firefighter and just about 7 years as an EMT.
So
I spent my first year when I got my EMT certification, I spent it doing a private EMS, which it's just basically transfers hospital to hospital kind of thing, dialysis appointments, nothing too crazy or I guess, I don't know, not a lot going on the private side. But it is good to start off that way because you do get a lot of patient interaction, which I think can be lost on a lot of 911 departments.
Okay, so you get some good experience then?
Yeah, I would say so. I think it's a great way to start, to ease into it, because it's very fast-paced. It's a fast-paced career, both on the EMS and the fire side. And on the private EMS side, it's not as fast-paced as you would expect, but there is very high call volume. You got a lot of patient interaction. It's just not high stress 911 emergency style. It's more, like I said, transfers from hospital to hospital or appointments. But getting that patient interaction definitely improves your skill set, because I think the biggest thing in both fire and EMS, and I think what a lot of people struggle with coming into it, is talking to strangers and being able to provide a service to someone you don't know. And once you conquer that, I think it sets for a pretty smooth career, I think.
Okay, I got you. No, so that's good. So it kind of like leads me to the next thing. So kind of off of what you're saying, I think a lot of people see like what firefighters do on TV or cartoons or movies or whatever. So a little bit different than maybe what the reality is. So can you kind of give us like a brief overview of what a firefighter actually does day to day?
Sure. So it's funny that you touch on that, on the difference from reality and TV. It's very, very different. My wife, actually, she doesn't like to watch firefighter movies with me because I'm always pointing out the mistakes and the differences. It's typical, just like every veteran that watches war movies and whatever else. But yeah, very, very different. I'm speaking for the way the departments are here in my region in Texas, and it's different in different regions of Texas. But for the most part, we have a lot of open land, so grass fires are a real big thing. Wildland firefighting is kind of a big thing here in our area, especially in the city of San Antonio. You have your highways, so motor vehicle accidents are a big thing. Firefighting isn't just going to put out fires. I think people that have no idea, what it takes to become a firefighter. From what they see on TV, it just seems like, oh, I just go to an academy, get my fire cert, and start working as a firefighter and just put out fires and that's it, and play pool and watch TV the rest of the day. Well, there's so much more that goes into it. There's a lot of training that goes into it, because it's not just putting wet stuff on the red stuff kind of thing. There's a lot of rescue training. There's a lot of high angle kind of stuff, confined space. I said motor vehicle accidents are a big, big thing. If you're not fighting fire, you're cutting somebody out of a car. And this is just on the fire side. Because you have to be a certified EMT, and this is in the state of Texas, and it goes for most states in the US, you have to be a certified EMT to be a firefighter. Most of what your day is going to consist of is these run-of-the-mill EMS calls. You'll get frequent callers that call for chest pain. And a lot of times, you get there, you already know because you've been there several times, it's nothing serious. They just have like heartburn or something, but they'll call for chest pain. And these kind of calls will come out throughout the day. And it can become monotonous to where you're just expecting, oh, this is going to be nothing big. And that is where a lot of times you let your guard down. which is why we always have to constantly train to be ready for that next call. A mentor of mine several departments ago always told me that you're only as good as your next call. You can't leave a call thinking that I made it, I fought that fire, I'm good. You're only going to be as good as your next call. So you always got to constantly train. You got to try to beat the best version of yourself, not be the best version of yourself, beat the best version of yourself. And the best thing about that is gaining all this knowledge. It really opens doors for you in this career, because like I said, it's not just firefighting at the basic level. You go and you fight fire and you go home. There's a lot of things in this career that you can achieve that'll put you above the rest. You can become in charge of your own truck. They call it an engineer. You can even promote to a lieutenant, where you're in charge of a whole shift of firefighters. You can promote to a captain, where you're in charge of the lieutenants and the firefighters, and so on and so forth. There's so many things that you can do in the fire service and it just requires a lot of training, and it requires a lot of that. You got to want it. You know, there's a lot going on in the fire service, and I think it's great for anyone who's interested in it.
That's great. That's actually a really great like overview of overviews, kind of like overarching and everything. I like it.
It's hard. It's hard to pinpoint like one. You know,
no, it's good though,
because there's just so much about it. There's so much to say about it.
No, super positive. So what actually got you into wanting to be a firefighter, Justin? Like, was there a moment in time, or was there like you were working as an EMT and then you were like, oh, I want to do this, or like what got you interested and what got you into it?
So I've always been a simple kind of guy. And when this is before the military, this is when I was in school, I not that I felt jealous, but I felt like I didn't know what I wanted. I feel like a lot of people have their goal, even from school age, like I'm going to go to school to be like a freaking architect or something, or they have their work laid out for them. And then they go to college and they achieve all their goals. I didn't have any of that. I just played video games and played outside with my friends. I felt like I didn't have anything figured out. And I thought, well, you know, I'm just going to be a firefighter. That's kind of the thing that you say when you're little. I'm going to be a firefighter. I'm going to be a policeman. And I stuck to that. And I thought, I mean, it's childish, but this is what I want to do. I'm going to be a firefighter. And I would say that, you know, elementary age, it was around fifth grade, when I was in fifth grade, when 9/11 happened. And I changed gears from there. At such a young age, I was inspired to join the military. And I thought, what's the biggest, baddest branch of service that I can join so I can get out there and do the Lord's work? So I joined the Marine Corps. But even in joining the Marine Corps, and that's a whole other topic for anyone who's interested in that. But even in joining the military and having deployed to Afghanistan and doing everything, I still had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to be a firefighter. And I always thought, man, what would it be like to be a firefighter? If I don't do this whole 20 years in the military, what if I got out and continue that dream of being a firefighter? I want to fulfill that dream. It's a dream of mine. So I did my 4 years of service. I went to Afghanistan. I did a humanitarian mission in New York after Hurricane Sandy. I did what I had to do in my military service. I'm extremely proud of it. When I got out in 2014, I immediately ventured off of what are the steps I have to take to be a firefighter? Because this is a long time dream of mine. There was no one moment that said, oh, you know, light bulb, I'm going to be a firefighter. It was just something that I've always said I was going to do since I was a kid. And I'm glad I can look back and say I've done everything I ever wanted to do. I've joined the military, become a firefighter. Those are really my two dreams, childhood dreams that I'm living out now. So.
Okay, I got you. So that's awesome. That was something you wanted to do and you ended up fulfilling it. Took you a little bit of time and kind of a journey, but that's really, really cool. So can you give me kind of like maybe like a typical day for you in the job? Like not like, again, not the TV show, but like a typical day where it's not a 9 to 5, because I know it's not how that works, but like a typical day for you guys at the station, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's still a job. We still kind of incorporate the 9 to 5 aspect, especially on weekdays. Typically, in a lot of departments here in this region in San Antonio, we're going to the schedule of 2 days on, 4 days off. They call that 48-96. Excuse me. Every department I've ever worked for has had that. At the very first department I worked for, what used to be 24-48, which is extremely typical, especially for high call volume departments. But right now, I think we're seeing an age where everyone's just kind of transitioning to that 2 days on, 4 days off. And if you're on those 2 days during the week, we have to incorporate that 9 to 5 kind of lifestyle. Even though we're there for 48 hours, So I guess like a typical day during the week, let's say I'm working a Monday, Tuesday. I get there, changeover or clock in time, if you will, is at 8 a.m. So that means I get off work 2 days later at 8 a.m. So you get in 8 a.m. The very first thing you do is you grab your gear, you set it by the truck, you get everything ready, and you do what's called a truck check. That's very vital. Every morning you have to do the truck check, or at least in the beginning of your shift. You start your truck check to whatever truck you're assigned to, making sure all the gear is there, making sure all the equipment is there, making sure there's fuel, there's oil, and everything else. You have your daily checks, and then every week there's what's called a detailed weekly check. And if you happen to land on that day for that truck, you go through the whole detailed weekly check where you're, lifting the cab open, we're getting under, the tires and tire pressure and all that other stuff. So you're checking your truck. After that, after everyone's done checking trucks, you kind of get with your crew and you either go out for breakfast or you cook or whatever, and you kind of just cut it up, talk how your break was or whatever. And then a lot of times the captain will have set forth a plan for the day. You have, we're gonna have training at this time. We're gonna meet with this other department for this, meeting, training, whatever. And that's the nice thing about the fire service too, is that it's not just confined to your department. There's neighboring departments that we work very closely with. So we like to do breakfast and we like to do lunch. We like to get together. We train together. It's very vital to train with another department because more often than not, when you get to a fire, you're going to have several different departments there. You want to know how everyone operates. You want to know the equipment on their trucks, and you want them to know how you operate so things go smoothly. So if there's nothing else going on that day, I mean, part of being a firefighter also is we like to show face a lot, with the community. We like to, do little drive-bys with the, at the schools, honking the horns and doing little drive-by parades and stuff. Other than that, sometimes there's little events going on like ribbon cutting ceremonies. We're going to be a part of that, especially in a small city like where I work for. There's things like that throughout the day. Again, like I said, there's training. Sometimes we got to do online training, go through classes, PowerPoints. And that's pretty much it. In between, you're running calls. Now, if you run a call during the day, you go, you do your call, whatever the call is, whether it's something as minor as someone stubbed their toe, or, someone that was in a pretty severe car wreck, or even a structure fire. When you come back, you have to do the report on that. So you're sitting, do however long it takes. You're sitting doing the report with your crew. Before you know it, man, the day gets away from you. It's already 5 p.m. And pretty much, it's kind of like a policy with a lot of departments. From 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., you're on the department's time. You're doing whatever the department needs you to do, training or whatever else. Like I said, you're doing your reports, making sure everything's tip top. After 5 p.m., you're kind of on your own time. That's where everyone kind of, takes their boots off and puts on sandals or tennis shoes, walking around in shorts. That's when everyone goes to work out. That's when we're sitting down watching movies or just hanging out or, talking to loved ones or whatever. I do that a lot. I FaceTime my wife a lot whenever I'm at work. Every once in a while, we'll have a movie night with the guys. We'll talk about it throughout the day. Hey, we're going to watch, Mortal Kombat tonight. Cool. After 5, after everyone's done working out, after we've got some dinner, we're watching movies and stuff. And then by the end of the day, I mean, we're in bed, we each have our own room, and the start of the next day is just, rinse, wash, repeat kind of thing. It's the same thing all over again. One thing though, even though we're trying to incorporate that 9 to 5 aspect, it's very family life oriented. So we're not getting there like, oh, I'm just with my coworkers and I'm going to clock out at 5. These are people that you're going into burning buildings with. These are people that you're seeing some really ugly things with, and you form a bond with these people. You're going there, you're interested in what they did on their day off. And most of the time you hung out with them on days off. It's very, very family oriented. You're going to get to work and you're going to be talking the whole day, making plans. And, when we get off work, we're going to go to the river, things like that. Eating is a big thing in the fire service. We love to eat. That's another thing that's different from the movies. The typical firefighter body is not what you see in the calendars. It's very dad bodish. You know what I mean? We like to eat. That's the thing that we base our camaraderie off of, is eating. Love to eat, love to grill out. And we do that as a family. We sit down together, we pray, we eat our dinner. And that's the one thing that if nothing else, we all sit down together to eat together. That's just kind of like an unwritten rule. You do that with your crew. And, you know, that's the one thing where you kind of put everything aside. You put all the, you know, the titles aside. You're just man to man, eating with your brothers kind of thing. But that's pretty much what a typical day is. If you're on a weekend shift, you get there on a Saturday, Sunday, there is really no 9 to 5 aspect. You go and you check your truck, but you're kind of on your own time the rest of the day. There's nothing planned typically throughout the day. So we find things to do. We'll find things to train on. We'll pull out some gear and, you know, fill in the day with, you know, getting some knowledge. And there's always something to learn. You never get to work knowing everything. You know, it's like I said, you're only as good as your next call. You'll be surprised at things you'll learn on a call for your next call, if that makes sense. So there's always things you got to do. My department doesn't run too many calls typically because where I'm at. So we do train a lot. We do have a lot of time where we do train. We do get a lot of downtime. But I have worked for departments that throughout the day you're just running calls left and right, and you don't have time to really train. So you're really getting your experience from the call itself. A lot of times, unfortunately, you don't have time to eat. But it's a rush, man. If I have to skip a meal because I'm out running a call, I mean, it kind of reminds you why you're doing it when you're in the call, when you're in your gear, when you're doing what you got to do. It really puts you in it. If you can like kind of take a step back and look at what's going on, it kind of reminds you like, man, this is what I joined the fire service to do. So I know I'm trying to cram a lot of information into one question, but there's just so many different kind of.
No, I like it. I think you're really elaborating, really giving a lot of good information. The one thing that I did hear though that I did like was you're only as good as your next call. I really like that. That's a good piece of like nugget information. That's kind of like across life though. You're only as good as whatever you're doing next.
Yeah.
The thing I took away from what you said too, as a joke within my own mind though, was you've been at stations where they run a lot of calls, and I'm assuming that those are the ones that look like the firefighters in the magazines because they're always running around doing a bunch.
They're the ones that don't eat enough. Yeah.
They don't have time to eat. They're just running around all day.
Yeah.
So this is one of my favorite questions for you, Justin, because I've never asked this before personally, but what was the first job you ever worked?
My first job ever worked was a place called Sirloin Stockade. And it was, I'm from Eagle Pass, Texas. That's where I grew up.
Okay.
It's the equivalent to what everyone knows and loves as Golden Corral. So, I mean, I wasn't even a real waiter. I just took people's drink orders and they got their own food because it was a buffet. That was my first job. 16 years old.
Did you get free food?
I mean, yeah, wasn't supposed to, but
it seems like everybody's first job I've been talking to has been working in like a restaurant. They're like, I got free food, so I really can't complain. And I'm like, oh, well, that's nice. That's the benefit. So from there, within like the fire department, I know that there's like a fire academy and like there's training and all that. So I guess my questions to you is like, how does the fire academy and the training work? And then also like, is there any type of like formal education that you can get outside of the fire department itself that would help you within like firefighting or moving up the ladder within a fire department?
No pun intended, moving up the ladder.
Yeah, I know. I didn't think about that. Yeah, exactly. No pun intended.
So the requirements are actually pretty basic and fairly simple in the scheme of what needs, what's required to get in. Not to say that the academy is easy, because a lot of times it can be pretty difficult, both physically and mentally and academically. The only requirements to practice as a fighter, and I use the word practice in terms of how doctors practice as, with their degrees or whatever. To practice in the state of Texas, the firefighter EMT, you need to first, my recommendation, it doesn't matter what you get first, my recommendation is to get your EMT first. Because when you go to get your fire, you go through a fire academy, it's just that much easier when you certify as a firefighter, because the application for the firefighter certification in the state of Texas requires you to put your EMT number, your EMT ID number. You can do that without it and submit it to the state, but it will not get filed until you complete that course. And you have to go back online and you have to go all this back and forth to add your EMT to it, however long that takes. I did it the other way. I got my EMT first. And that's all you need. Your EMT basic certification. and your firefighter certification. Now, you asked about, is there any other like higher level of education that will help you?
Like
It's not required, but
like,
there are people there. Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify. It was like, say that someone was like, I want to be a fire chief someday. Would it be helpful for them to have a degree? Like, is that a required thing, or is that like a, hey, you have a bachelor's, so it's helpful? I don't know. I'm just asking. I've never asked.
It kind of differs from department to department. As far as like in my current department, in order to promote to a lieutenant, you have to have your intermediate EMT, because there's basic, intermediate, and paramedic. Paramedic is the highest level of EMT. You have to at least have your intermediate EMT, and you have to have your intermediate firefighter certification, which I'm eligible for my intermediate fire certification, but you have to pay a fee. You have to take a test, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't gotten around to doing that because there's other courses that I'm taking care of right now, but it's not required in all departments. Some departments require you to have certain certifications to promote. And I think to be a chief, I mean, that's pretty big time, but I think to be a chief, most departments do require a bachelor's degree. It doesn't have to be in fire science, but most people choose the fire science degree because part of the fire science degree includes certain certifications along the way.
Okay, I got
which is like an officer certification and an instructor certification. There's officer 1, officer 2, instructor 1, instructor 2. And when you take your bachelor's degree, I think those courses are included, or you can include them upon completion of your bachelor's degree.
Okay, I got you. It makes sense.
One thing that is required though is this mustache, which takes discipline.
I like it. You guys can't have beards, can you?
What's that?
You guys can't have beards, can you?
No.
Just mustache.
I'm really pushing it right here. You know, there's some people that, you know, get their mustache, you know, gloriously grown. But in my case, I can't really grow a great beard, not as good as yours, to be honest. But I can grow a heavy mustache. So I mean, because I'm a firefighter, I take advantage of it. I can get away with it. But yeah, we don't have beards, and it's a tactical reason, because the mask needs to be able to properly seal around your face. And if you have a beard, it won't do that. It won't properly do that. That's why I'm saying this mustache is kind of pushing it, even though the mask kind of goes under, you know, the neck area. This is probably as far as I'll grow it down, but no, it's just, I don't know. It's one of those stigma things where typically firefighters have mustaches. So I thought I'd join the club.
I can dig it. So as far as getting in to a fire department, or is it a fire department or a ladder, or is it the same thing?
What do you mean?
There's like the term fire departments, and I've heard the term ladder thrown around as well.
Okay, so the fire department. The fire department is it's a department of the city. You have your public works department, you have your, you know, HR department, you have your police department, and you have your fire department. The fire department, like I said, it's just the department of whatever entity you work for. And there's different companies within the department. Bigger cities like the city of San Antonio, you'll have an engine company, a ladder company, you know what I mean? And you'll have your medic crew. Everyone's all certified firefighter EMTs. Some are even firefighter paramedics. That term ladder is what you call the big truck with the giant ladder on top of it, the one that raises up and extends. You call that a ladder, or it's weird. You call that either a ladder or a truck. The other ones that don't have the ladders, they just drive around, they pump water out of it. You call those engines or pumpers. They're more often referred to as engines, but they're also called pumpers. That's what you use to pump water on a fire scene, the engine. So you have your engine and you have your ladder. Your ladder has capabilities to pump water out of it, but it only typically has about 200 gallons, whereas your engines can have 500 to 700 gallon. Like we have a 750 gallon tank on our engine, and we have 2 backup engines that have 500 gallon tanks, and our ladder truck has a 200 gallon tank, but you're not going to use that to be pumping water. It's more for, like I said, high angle rescue, or you can hook up a 5-inch hose to the back of it and supply water through the ladder to spray at a higher angle.
Okay, I got you. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
So as far as getting into like a fire department, how competitive is it to get into more of like a municipality, like a smaller, like maybe like a county one versus like a city one?
So the requirements are going to be different. So for a bigger city like the city of San Antonio, metropolitan area, Austin, Dallas, Houston, there is no requirement. All you have to do is apply, pass the background check, and submit all your prerequisite forms. You don't need any schooling, any kind of training whatsoever, because if you do get selected and you do get hired, you start the academy and you get trained up, you get all the necessary certifications to practice as a firefighter for that department, and getting paid while you're doing it. That's the metropolitan side of it. You have, if let's say you can't make it, and it's not very easy, it's extremely competitive. They test once a year in San Antonio, and you get upwards of 2,000 to 3,000 applicants or taking the test. And it's usually in February, March timeframe every year. And out of those 3,000, about 50 are selected to move on. And if you score high enough and you're eligible, but they already selected their 50, they'll put you on a waiting list for the following year. Yeah, it's extremely competitive to get in these big cities, which is why it takes years sometimes for people to get in. I will say people who do have prior service military, they do get 5 extra points added to their test, which may not seem like a lot, but in terms of ranking from 1 to 3,000, those 5 points can bump you up a couple of, maybe 100 slots up. You know what I mean? Because let's say you score, the people that score 90 to 100 on the test, you know what I mean? They're going to be like the first, I'm horrible with math, but they're going to be at the top. If I were to score an 85, I'm going to be ranked down here, maybe like 130, close to 200. If I got those 5 extra points and bumped it to a 90, instead of being ranked down here, like in the one, past the 150s, I'll be ranked up here with like 50 to 70 ranking, which they usually take the first 100, and then they start dwindling down from there. And eventually they take the first 50. So those 5 extra points from the military definitely help. So anyone who's prior service military or wants to do the military first, you will have a leg up in a lot of these type of careers, be it police or fire. But that's the requirement for metropolitan big city. If you can't get in, and this is typical, this is just typical for me, you can go and get your certs on the outside. And the departments that you can apply for would be like the county or smaller city departments. Like I work for the city of Live Oak. It's a small city inside the city of San Antonio. You have to go to an accredited academy. You have to get your certifications that way. And then you can apply for these departments already with these certifications. That's the only difference between working metropolitan big city and the smaller county departments, city departments. The requirements are way different. You have to be certified for the smaller ones. You don't have to be for the big ones because they're going to put you through their own academy.
Okay, so it's a little bit less competitive for the smaller like municipalities or like county departments versus the
yeah.
city. Okay.
I mean, it's a give or take really, because the smaller departments, there's not a lot of openings. A lot of times they're going to have one opening, so that can be pretty competitive. You know what I mean? But there's enough departments hiring for 1 or 2 spots that if you don't get in with this department, you're bound to get in with another department. You're going to get in the department, one way or the other.
I got you. So within your experience, Justin, what's like the best thing, the single best thing, or your favorite thing about being a firefighter?
My favorite thing about being a firefighter, I would say is the time off. I mean, I know you would want to hear more about being at work, but it really gives you time, to decompress and spend time with your family, and it prepares you for going back into work. You don't get that in a lot of other jobs. You don't get to go to work for 2 days and be home for 4 days. You know what I mean? You can even trade a day with someone and end up having 6 days off. I'm on my 5th day. I'm on my 4th day. I have 2 more days off because I traded with somebody. And I'm telling you, it's so nice, man, because you get paid a pretty decent amount for the amount of work you put in. You have a lot of time off. That's a really nice thing about being a firefighter, is that you have time to do other things. Like on the personal side for me, I'm actually in the process of getting my home inspector license, and a lot of firefighters have side gigs because we have so much time off. You have people that have landscaping businesses and cut grass, they paint, they do fences, little odd jobs like that, or they'll work other fire departments, or they'll work other EMS jobs. there's a lot of things you can do on your time off. And I'm going to try to go into the whole business ownership side and get into the whole real estate inspection scene. You do get a lot of firefighters who are real estate agents too, but the time off, it definitely, it allows you to do a lot of things. And if nothing else, spend time with family. And that's, to me, at the point of where I'm at in life, because I just had my son and I'm married and all that. I love to be home with my family, and being a firefighter definitely lots of the time to do that. And whenever I'm at work, they're more than welcome to come visit me. So I'm never too far away from them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, super positive. I'm sure it's nice to have 3 days off in a row.
Yeah.
So again, in your experience, kind of like a question I don't like to ask, but maybe I will even dislike it more asking you, because I don't know what your answer is going to be. What's the thing that you like least, or what's the worst thing about being a firefighter?
Worst thing about being a firefighter, it's not much, man. And it's hard to be like, oh, this is the greatest job in the world. I'm going to be biased towards my career because I love what I do. But there are times where I would say not getting enough sleep can be irritating and tiresome. But that gets corrected when you get off work. You're home for 4 days. That's more than enough time to recoup. But a lot of times you can be at work and there can be so many calls going on where you skip meals and you don't get enough sleep. And then people become irritable. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been around someone like a roommate that you've had that you haven't slept, you haven't eaten, you know what I mean? It gets a little irritable. But at the end of the day, I mean, we love what we do. And when we're on the call, it kind of just goes away. When you wake up in the middle of the night for a call, you're like, oh my gosh, I was just about to get some sleep. But once you're there, you're doing what you got to do. You're doing what you're trained to do. You kick into overdrive, and that feeling goes away. To me, I think that would probably be the biggest thing that I dislike, which isn't even that bad, to be honest, man. I mean, when I'm home, I stay up all night playing video games with you, so it's not much of a difference.
True, very true. So what do you feel like is like the most rewarding part of being a firefighter?
I would definitely have to say the thanks that we get from someone that we just helped. A lot of times we're what's standing in between someone's worst day of their life and the one thing that can correct that is us. We're the first person they see when they're having the worst day of their life. And it's kind of, to put things into perspective, if you're ever driving down the road and you see sirens going off, just remember someone is having the worst day of their life. They've never they've never been in an ambulance. They never thought they'd ever have to be in one. They've never thought they'd ever have to have a fire truck outside their house putting out their fire. Everyone thinks it'll never happen to me until it happens to them. And being the first one on scene to try your best to make things better, to me, I think is the most rewarding thing. I don't do it for thanks, and I don't think anybody does, to be honest. Thanks is not going to pay your bills. Thanks is not going to get you up in the morning, but it definitely is rewarding to have someone appreciate what you do, because it is a lot of hard work. Like I said, you miss out on your family sometimes, you miss meals, you miss sleep, but at the end of the day, when it just reminds you why you do it. And I think that's probably the most rewarding thing, is when someone is appreciative for the service you're providing.
Okay, I like it. That's good. That's really, really positive, especially just being able to be in a career where you can impact people's lives in a positive way.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to zero in on. You're so much better at articulating than I am.
This guy. So if someone in high school or a younger adult is watching this video and they're like, okay, like I like what Justin's saying, this sounds really good. Maybe I should go into firefighting or EMT. Do you feel like there's like an opportunity or a first step they should kind of take to like dip their toe or foot in the water to kind of see if they like the landscape in front of them before like diving into taking classes or trying to become a firefighter?
Absolutely. And because this is such a high interest, there are several departments, mainly county departments, that offer a volunteer program. There is no age requirement. There's no requirement at all. Anyone can go and contact your local department to see if they have a volunteer program. That is the one thing you can do, so you can see. They'll fit you for gear. You go on calls. You'll see what it's like. If you like it enough, a lot of times, and I say this loosely because I don't want to get departments in trouble for thinking that they have to do this, but several departments do offer, if you're volunteering with them, they will put you through an academy for fire and EMT. If you like it, say, hey, I've been volunteering for a while. I really like this. I think this is the career step I want to go. They can sponsor you to a fire academy. They can sponsor you for an EMT school. And a lot of times they'll pay for this. Is what I'm saying loosely. Some departments will pay for it under the condition that you work for them for a couple. It's like a contract kind of thing. But yeah, there's definitely something, I definitely recommend this for a lot of the young viewers, especially high school age or just getting out of high school and you're trying to figure out if you want to do this or not. You don't have, it's not the military. You don't sign and that's it. Man, what did I get myself in? That's what I thought when I joined the Marines. I thought, oh man, I'm going to get a gun. This would be awesome. Get to boot camp. I'm like, I can't back out. Now, you don't have that problem in the fire service. You can volunteer. You can see what it's like. And if you decide you want to do it, there's several steps you can take. You contact your local fire department. They can definitely set you in the right direction.
That's good though. I like that there's an opportunity out there for people to kind of like try before you buy.
Yeah, pretty much.
So what type of personality or like personality traits do you feel like would fit best with someone who wants to get into firefighting?
Man, I've seen, and I thought being prior service military, that was going to be like the main type of personality trait that you would expect in the fire service, but it's really not, man. I've seen people from all walks of life, different sides of the political spectrum. I know we're in such a political age now. I don't think anyone should feel pressure that, I don't lean this way politically, so I'm not going to fit in the fire service. That's not true. My lieutenant leans one way and my captain leans far the other way. We all get along. In the fire service, everyone just gets along. There's no specific personality trait. And I think that's one of the things I really like about the fire department that you don't get from a lot of other careers, I think.
I like it though. I like the fact that it's very like inclusive.
Diverse.
Different personality traits, different types of people, backgrounds, political beliefs, all that, which I really, really like. Because I think that a lot of jobs can get very divided. And I think that's one of the cool things also about being a firefighter, from what you said and from what I've heard from you guys before, is that it's like kind of like just a big family. So you got a family at home and you got a family at work, which is very different. Because in a lot of careers or jobs, it's very like you said, you come in, you clock in, you do your job, you don't talk to anybody else, and you go home.
Yeah.
So I think I like that. I like that different aspect of it. So I have a few more questions for you real quick, Mr. Justin. There's kind of like a little bit more fun questions to ask. So I always like to ask type of questions, but I already know that you play video games, so don't give me that as the answer. What do you like to do in your free time?
Aside from spending time with my wife and my son, I love to play guitar, man. I grew up in church, learned guitar at a very young age. I think I was about 9 years old when I first picked up the guitar. I've done it ever since. It's actually a big part of my life, a big hobby. I even have a Gibson tattoo. It's my favorite guitar brand.
I got you.
I own a few guitars. I love to play guitar. My brother's a drummer. We've been in bands growing up. My sister plays bass in her local church. She's really good at it too. And kind of grew up in a family of musicians and singers, if you will. But that's one of probably the biggest things: playing music, playing guitar, and playing video games, of course. Definitely good de-stressor.
I like it. Killing people in Call of Duty makes you feel a little better.
Oh yeah.
So that's another one of my favorite questions. So do you have any like secret talents or hobbies that if someone met you or was getting to know you, they'd be like, I can't believe that you do that? Or maybe something I wouldn't guess that, Justin Bernal does or is able to do. I mean, I keep giving the same example because I think it's like, it was so surprising to me. I had a lady who I interviewed and she was like, I like to read, what was it? I like to read British history books, like from like back in the day. And I was like, in your free time? She's like, yeah, it's like my weird secret hobby that no one knows. And I was like, okay, like that's cool. I would never have guessed that in a million years. So I don't know if there's anything like that.
I'd hate to say this from my point of view because it sounds like I'm bragging, but I can actually draw really good.
Okay.
I don't know. It's something that most people are like, what? I'm pretty public about that. But for some reason, I kind of kept that. I don't know why. I keep it to myself, but I can look at your face and draw it to perfection almost.
That's awesome. I'll have to put you to the test in the future so I can see. That's really cool though. I like it. It was something you just kind of born with or?
My dad is like that. My dad can look at something and he kind of chicken scratch sketches it. And ever since I was little, I'm like, man, I want to do that. So all the toys I had, I would start drawing them. I'll draw animals. I used to love to draw like horses and rhinos and dinosaurs, like stuff like that. And I started getting into drawing like I was real big into comics. It's probably another, well, it's not very hidden because I talk about it a lot. Real big DC comic fan. But I started drawing like Batman and, over the Marvel side, Spider-Man. I got really, I used to get the little books from the library in elementary on how to draw like superheroes and stuff. So it's one of the little talents I have, I guess. I don't do it a lot, but it's one of those things that I just keep to myself. Every now and then I'll sketch a drawing here and there just for the heck of it.
That's really cool. That's actually really positive. I didn't know that. So now I do.
Yeah.
So I got two more questions for you. First one is, when you first get into a fire department, you first start working, do you know like a general average like pay ranges you're looking at? Like what that would typically look like for a regular person coming right out of the academy?
So it changes a lot. Obviously, for the bigger municipal departments, you're going to get paid a lot more. But we're here in my region, we're looking anywhere between 40 to 60,000 a year, and that can change. And that a lot of times is considered base pay. Not including overtime. But because of our schedule, 2 days on, 4 days off, the way that it's like a block schedule, where that falls into the pay scale, you're factoring a lot of overtime. So if you go to a department that says they're going to pay you 43,000, you're actually going to be raking in about 10,000 more than that, I would say. That's a pretty good rough estimate. I would say on average, good 50,000, 50 plus is a good entry level in my region of San Antonio, Texas. That's kind of the going rate. But again, it changes. A lot of the taxes go up, which means more revenue for the fire department and for EMS. There's raises every year. When I entered Live Oak, which is a little over a year ago, the starting pay is different now. So the starting pay moves up a lot. Some departments stay the same, some departments grow, but that's kind of the area.
Okay, got you. And then the last question for you, Mr. Justin, any pieces of advice or words of wisdom for anybody who's listening to what you're saying, is interested in what you're talking about? Any, like I said, nuggets, piece of advice, words of wisdom for those people who are listening and are like, you know what, maybe I want to look into this?
If you're looking to be a firefighter or an EMT, just remember what I said earlier about you're only as good as your next call. But aside from that, you have to understand that the fire department is not a job. It's not clocking in 9 to 5. I know I mentioned earlier about adopting the 9 to 5 aspect, but that's just to kind of keep a structure during the week. To be a firefighter, it doesn't take the biggest. I'm not the biggest, strongest, most buff looking guy in the fire department. You don't have to be that. You don't have to have a mustache. You don't have to do any of that. You just have to love what you want to do. You have to be excited about what you want to do. One of my favorite things about certain people in the fire department is people that come with a positive attitude. Just be positive. You're gonna unfortunately see a lot of things that you never expected to see, and that includes horrible car wrecks. People at the end of their life. Structure fires, at dead animals. I've seen quite a few of those. You're gonna see a lot of negative things, and I know I'm trying to keep this, family friendly as much as possible. But this isn't a family friendly career. At the end of the day, you're really helping somebody that's again having their worst day of life. Positivity can get you extremely far, and motivation. Be positive, stay motivated. Don't let negativity get you down. You're going to hear people say bad things about the fire department. You're going to hear people say bad things about anything. People talk bad about the military. I love what I did in the Marine Corps, and I love what I do as a firefighter. And I think I'm going to keep doing it until I can't do it anymore. Stay motivated, love what you want to do, and train. Be as knowledgeable as you can be. Don't be stagnant. You're always moving forward in the fire department. You can't progress. You can't stay in the career very long if you're just going to stay at the entry level. Be hungry for the knowledge, stay motivated, and above all, just be positive. That's going to make you have a long, worthy career, I think.
Well, thanks a lot, Justin. I really appreciate the words of wisdom right there, because I think it's always good to hear like motivational stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Especially the whole, everyone's always gonna have something bad to say about something, and just being positive is really important, especially just.
I do have one more thing to say.
Yeah.
The fire department is really big on tradition. As you can see, I have this flag custom made for me. I have my truck, the same kind of flag in my truck. My son's room is all decked out, fire service. There's a lot of groups. I would say, I don't want to say focus groups, but there's a lot of people out there who are firefighters who really have adopted this brotherhood it's more than just a job. It's more than just a career. It really is a lifestyle. Tradition and brotherhood, it's a real big thing in the fire service. And if that interests you at all, if you want to be a part of something bigger than yourself, you want to be better than just going and clocking in, and maybe, you know, those kind of office jobs work for some people. But if you want to get away from that and you want to do something more, that traditional brotherhood, that real camaraderie, that you're part of something, that there's a flag that you can represent, and you don't want to commit to the military, which no harm, no foul. I think the fire department is great when it comes to that camaraderie. We're all about, you know, honor, courage, commitment to our craft. And tradition is real, it runs deep. You know, it's like once a firefighter, always a firefighter. And if you meet another firefighter, you guys are instantly brothers because of the kind of work you do. There's a lot of similarities in all the departments and what they do, but if anything else, if nothing else attracts you to this job, really look into how traditional camaraderie. I think those are the two biggest words. It's really awesome to be a part of something like this, I think.
That's awesome. That's actually really, really awesome. Thank you for adding that in there as well. So one last thing for you, and then I'll let you get out of here, Mr. Justin, because I know you got some stuff you got to go do. Say that there is a kid in high school or a younger adult who watched this and is like, you know what, I want to be a firefighter. I have a couple questions for Justin. I don't know if you want to throw your email out there. So if they're like, hey, I have a quick question, just for some advice, maybe, I don't know. Sure.
You can throw me. I don't know if you have my email there. If you want me to,
you can just shout it out, man.
It's going to be usmcjb10@gmail.com. That's my primary email. So if you have any questions, I can answer them, especially if you're in the Texas area. If not, I can try my best to point you in the right direction. But if you have any questions, let me know.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Justin. I appreciate you being here today and for talking to me as well as everybody else. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, brother.
Yes, you too. Thank you.
All right, man. Bye.